think live music's really important. It's, there's so much great music to be heard that's recorded, and now more than ever, I mean, it's at your fingertips. You can hear anything you want to hear. You can find anything you're looking for. You can sample endlessly, music that people have written. Something live is different, there's a delivery of music that's involved, there's an intent that has to be present. There is an element of being in the moment and of improvisation and of interaction amongst musicians and across the stage to the audience from the musicians that is such a cool exchange of energy. It's so neat to watch someone be excited about music live, watching the person create it and watching the person listen and soak it up and have an emotional response to it and feel something from having seen it. That are like that, or maybe there are a ton of things that are like that. Like maybe conversation is like that. Maybe everything is like that. Maybe waking up in the morning is like that. But it's so cool. It's so cool to see it. Maybe I'm not doing it justice and explaining it that way, but it's really important. And I think that people get something from that they don't find in a lot of other places. And it's a really healthy escape, and it's magical. You can go somewhere else when you're listening to music, and you can hear someone else's story, and you can. I don't know. I think it's inspiring, and I think it fills people up, and it makes them remember things, and it makes them think of new things they haven't thought about, and watching people who like music all get together in the same place and watching that kind of social interaction between them is also another really cool community building kind of thing. So in general, I think there's a lot of good things that come out of live music. I grew up in Cuba, Missouri, which is about 100 miles away from St. Louis in the center of the state of Missouri. It's a pretty small town, so there wasn't a whole lot of music going on there. I took lessons, and I played the saxophone when I was a kid, and I sang in choir, and I did whatever music was available to do. And then when I finished high school, I was ready to go, so I took off from there and went to college and studied music and went out into the world to play. I started playing the saxophone when I was 11. I never really did take piano lessons or anything. I took some group piano in college and all the things that go along with a music degree. So that is, like theory and ear training and, I don't know, I guess history of music and all that stuff. But it wasn't really until college that I started seriously studying voice. I mean, I had always wanted to sing, but I never really pursued it too much till college. I wanted to sing, and piano just kind of came along with that. I was never trying to be a pianist. But as a songwriter, you end up, you need a harmonic instrument of some kind, And I played around with guitar a little bit too, but eventually I settled into piano once I kind of, allowed myself to sit with one instrument, not be perfect on it, and keep playing it anyway. When I was young, we had a piano in our house. It was fairly out of tune, but we had a piano in our house, and I used to play around with little, little musical figures. I would just come up with a little pattern, and I would play it, over and over and over, and then I would add another part to it, and I never really sang with it. I would just sit down at the piano and play those kinds of things, and it never really occurred to me that they were songs, or that I was going to be writing songs or anything like that. I was just bored. I was bored sitting at a piano, and then for a long while, especially when you study music, there's just this feeling that you're around people that are so incredible at what they do. I was lucky, and I had some really incredible teachers and players around me, and so the bar is very high for what constitutes a piano player or a songwriter, composer. So I think that kind of scared me off for a while. And then it was after college, when I got out into the world of playing, and I started listening to other people who were writing songs, and the ones that grabbed me the most were not the high art pieces necessarily, musically speaking. They were simpler, and they were written by people who weren't trained, and so I started kind of meandering that way, a little at a time until I was walking that direction pretty strongly, going that way. I think that nobody's ever written anything that they haven't heard before on some level. Someone told it to me once. They said it's like trying to imagine a color you've never seen. It's just not possible. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So I think that good music has a certain level of familiarity to it, to the listener, and that's very subjective. I think people, different people will, different things ring true for them as to what a good song is or isn't. But I think there are also some things in the middle that everybody can agree on, and I think intent is a big one. I think that having some intent with what you're doing, whether it's you're going for this rhythmic feel, and the words are just kind of fun. Maybe the lyrics are just fun, or you're really trying to say something with the lyrics, and the music is just kind of like repetitive. It's just like a vamp back and forth between two chords maybe, and it's about the story. But generally, I think the intent in one of those two things is important. And there are lots of other things that makes a song good. I think that generally it needs to be kind of clear what you're saying, and on some level, I think the simpler it is, the more it rings true with people. And that's just my angle, and I'm sure there are many people who would say, that they really enjoy the complexities of, of this or of that, and I certainly love all kinds of classical pieces too that I would consider to be fairly complex pieces of music. But even a very complex piece of music can be boiled down to one theme. There's one harmonic idea or rhythmic idea that's being worked off of, that's being repeated, that's being developed and processed until it becomes this big piece. And the piece maybe is complex, but again, shaving it down to what is the most simple about it. And maybe that's the difference between the genres, like maybe a pop genre is just the shaved down, very, very simple figure that you're working with, and maybe a classical piece of music or a symphonic piece of music is like something that's very simple and lots of layers and textures built around it, that start to create that complexity.